Thank you everyone for attending today. We are going to be exploring the SQE pathways throughout this session. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you need the closed captions on, then you should be able to turn those on at the bottom of the screen. The slides and the slides and the recording of this webinar will be shared probably early next week. We'll send you that via email and probably include some useful links for you. So keep an eye out for that. Another thing worth mentioning is the chat box is free to use. I can see that someone's already popped in there. Good evening. So yeah, feel free to say hi, introduce each other. If any of you are wanting to connect with me on LinkedIn, by all means, post your profiles in there and I'll be more than happy to connect. And then it's also another way that you can contact me to ask questions if you'd like to. Thank you to everyone that's already submitted your questions, but if any others come up throughout this session, then by all means pop those in the chat box as well, and towards the end of the session we will answer those for you, but hopefully we'll answer most throughout the slides. So first and foremost, quick introductions. I'm Sydney. I'm the Student Recruitment Officer at the College of Legal Practice, and I basically oversee the journey of prospective students from the initial interest and inquiries up to registering for one of our courses. So if you submit an inquiry or you have submitted an inquiry, it's probably myself or my manager that's gotten back to you. We're also joined by Kathryn today, who's the programme leader for the LLM. She is a mindful of information and will hopefully be able to shed some clarity on the courses that we offer and also the SQE route as a whole. So if you've got any questions, definitely make the most of her being here. And we're also very fortunate to be joined today by Aleksandra, who's our current student on the full-time LLM. And again, utilize the fact that Aleksandra is here. If you've got any questions, feel free to pop those in the chat and she can answer those for you as well towards the end. Now, before we get properly started, we are acting under the presumption that you do know that you want to be a solicitor, but if you're still not sure, then please give this QR code a scan. This solicitor guide, we've had lots of positive feedback. If you're in an early stage of deciding whether or not this profession is right for you, then this guide basically just brings together some advice, some tips and some experiences from experienced and newly qualified solicitors, along with graduate recruitment professionals. So it can just help you establish whether or not this is the right route for you. All right then, so what we're going to cover today is I'll just give you a quick insight into the College of Legal Practice, who we are. We'll also cover what the SQE is, and we'll look at some pathways to help you get an idea of what might be the best route for you. There's the Q&A session with our lovely student Alex, where we'll talk about her student experience. We'll also go through the course options and some course information, and then, as I mentioned before, there's the opportunity for you to ask some more questions if you have any. So first and foremost, the College of Legal Practice is an accredited, fully virtual postgraduate law school based in the UK, and we specialise in SQE preparation courses. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of reassurance that we know what we are talking about today. Our parent company is the College of Law, and they are the leaders in legal education over in Australia. So we do have quite a lot of experience when it comes to delivering digital learning. And we're all about being accessible and affordable when it comes to legal education. So traditionally, as I'm sure quite a few of you know, the law is known for being a profession where there are quite a few barriers. And so we're just trying to do our bit to eliminate some by offering courses at an affordable price, and also facilitate access through personal and targeted individual support, where students get access to high levels of one-to-one supervision. And we also facilitate an inclusive and supportive learning environment so that people can have reasonable adjustments if they need it, and it just gives everyone the opportunity to get most out of their learning. Okay. So this is the last sort of slide on the college to help give you an insight into who we are. These are just some of the people that we have partnerships with, some of the firms and the universities, and we basically deliver our SQE preparation modules as part of these partnerships as well. So a few firms, you've got Brown Jacobson, Clark Wilmot there, Acuity Law, and then you've also got some universities like Oxford Brookes, Manchester Metropolitan, Keele, etc. Okay, so without further ado, It's why we're here today. What is the SQE? So for the SQE route, it's made up of 4 elements. So you need to have a degree or equivalent. You also need to pass the SQE1 and the SQE2. You need to have 2 years of full-time or equivalent qualifying work experience. And you also need to meet the SRA characteristics and suitability requirements. Now, one of the questions that we received when people were registering for this event was what the route would be to qualify if you're already an international lawyer. Now, the route that you follow is the same. The only difference is that depending on your existing experience, if you've been working as an international lawyer, is that you might be exempt from SQE2. So that would be the only difference. And you would need to apply for an exemption via the SRA website. So if you want more information on that, I will provide the link at the end for you to have a look at, but I just thought that I'd address that now so that you know the information that we're providing to you throughout this webinar is still relevant to you, even if you are qualified overseas. Okay. So when it comes to choosing which order to do things in those 4 elements in, there might be different pathways that you want to follow. Everyone's different. So we've just got some examples here to help give you an idea of which order you might want to do it in. So for example, you might know that you definitely want to be a solicitor and you're just wanting to get the qualifications done and out of the way. In that scenario, you might want to crack straight on with the SQE preparation, whether that is as a standalone course or as part of the full-time LLM in legal practice. You're not working at this point. You're just wanting to get those qualifications, pass the SQE assessments, and then you'll focus on getting the qualifying work experience after that. It might be that you're needing to work whilst you study. This is the case for the majority of our students. So they're working full-time in a legal setting, they're accruing that qualifying work experience, and then they will study on a part-time basis. We will always recommend that if you are working full-time, sometimes even working part-time, and if you have a lot of commitments, to study on a part-time basis if you're in a position to do so. And then lastly, it might be that you're not sure whether or not being a solicitor is for you. So if that's the case, then we would definitely recommend getting a position within the legal sector, experiencing what it's like to work within the legal sector, seeing whether or not you are wanting to become a solicitor. And if so, fantastic. You'll then look at pursuing the SQE preparational study still while working within that role. Okay, so I appreciate that obviously this is quite a general overview. It's not linear. It might be that you don't fit into either or, but hopefully this will just give you a little bit of guidance as to what your pathway could look like to become qualified as part of throughout the SQE journey. So at this point, I am going to now hand you over to the lovely Kathryn, who's going to talk you through some key facts for the SQE1 and SQE2, and also touch on some qualifying work experience as well. So Kathryn, over to you.
Thank you, Sydney. And thank you for bringing up this slide now, which I'm going to talk to. So the SQE exams are gateway professional exams, as I'm sure you'll all know, which means that they are run by Kaplan on behalf of the SRA, and they are fairly comprehensive in terms of what you need to know in order to be a day one qualified solicitor. So for SQE1, you will be studying 13 practice areas of law. They will be sometimes familiar subjects if you've done a law degree, such as contract law, tort law, trust law, that kind of thing, but also some probably new topic areas, new practice areas, such as business and dispute resolution. There's no optionality in SQE1. You have to study all 13 practice areas, and all of those practice areas are covered in the SQE1 assessment. The SQE1 assessment is conducted by way of an MCQ examination. It's over 2 days in all those 13 practice areas, and each day has 5 hours of exam for you. You sit at Pearson View Test Centre locations. There are lots in the UK, there are even some overseas, and there's an opportunity to sit the SQE1 at 2 points every year, one in January and one in July. So we've got students approaching the July 2024 SQE sit. And the exam you're facing when you do SQE1 is what's called a single best answer multiple choice question test. So that means you get a scenario from which you have to identify the legal principle, and then you have a question followed by 5 possible options, all of which will be plausible, and you have to select the one that is the best. So you've probably done MCQ exam questions previously in exams, but the skill of single best answer MCQ exams is being able to cope with the fact that you might have 5 correct answers, but one of them is better than all of the rest. And there's a lot of skill in developing the ability to sift through the information to know why one option is better as an answer than the 4 others that are available to you. It's about 1 minute 40 seconds to answer each question, because in the 2.5 hours that you have to answer 90 questions, I've already mentioned it's over 2 days. So it's 2.5 hours in the morning of one day, followed by 2.5 hours in the afternoon, and that's repeated on a second day. So you'll have done 360 MCQs over 10 hours. Just to return to the point that Sydney made earlier, the SRA does have provision for people who need adjustments for examinations, but any adjustment that you need is all dealt with through the SRA website, because they are the people who run those exams. But our preparation course is skilling you up to cope with the rigor of that exam, so that you've covered all 13 practice areas and had lots and lots of practice in MCQs with us as you do the preparation course. So that's SQE1. You will see there that there's an exam fee of just under £1,900. Those are the SRA fees. They're not payable to Culp in any way. We're not in control of those fees, so we just keep you up to date with what the current fees are to pay to the SRA when you book your exam. Let's now move from SQE1 into SQE2. SQE2 can only be attempted once you've passed SQE1. And SQE2 is about getting ready to be public facing. So you will carry forward all of your knowledge from SQE1 into the study of a funneled number of practice areas. So you're down to 5 practice areas in the context of 6 legal skills. And the legal skills are set out there on the right-hand side of this slide. So there's the oral skills of advocacy and client interviewing. And then there are written skills. So along with client interviewing, you write up an attendance note. You then do the 4 other written skills of case matter analysis, legal drafting, legal research, and legal writing. Now, I say it's funneled into 5 practice areas because while you're only examined in 5 practice areas, the practice areas that you're examined in are underpinned by all of the 13 practice areas that you study in SQE1. So that's why you carry forward all of your SQE1 knowledge. And the exam has a very different look and feel to it. It's one single exam when you sit SQE2. It contains 16 stations, 12 of which are written and 4 of which are oral. And you have to pass the SQE2 as a whole, although you don't have to pass each individual station separately. Now that sounds like the good news. The downside is you can't carry forward any SQE2 examination stations that you succeed in because you have to pass the whole of the SQE2 overall. So think of it as one exam. So you need to be skilled across the piece in terms of your knowledge in the 5 practice areas and the skills, the 6 skills that you're specifically going to be examined in. Again, all of these exams are run by Kaplan for the SRA. You attend at an assessment centre. The written exams can be done at various stations, various centres throughout the world, actually, but the oral assessments have to be done in the UK, and there are currently 4 locations to do those. The assessment dates, there's more assessment dates for SQE2. So there's 4 assessment points. You can see there, January, April, July, and October. But as I say, the key is you have to pass SQE1 before you can book SQE2. Again, SQE2 fees are there, just short of £3,000 this time. And again, those are payable directly to Kaplan when you book the exam. We'll keep you up to date as to any fees increases, which do happen. They do happen. So those are the important aspects of SQE1 and SQE2. And the idea of SQE as a whole is that you are ready to practice when you have sat the exams, and therefore the examinations are testing you at the level of being a day 1 competent solicitor. So that's really important. Set alongside that is the information about qualifying work experience, and this is what we're turning to now. So the idea of qualifying work experience is that the SRA are going to recognise experience that you've had in the workplace where you were exposed to solicitor competencies. So you don't have to have anything formal like a training contract, but you do have to have time in the legal professional setting. That can be in a range of institutions. It can be in-house, it can be private practice, it can be pro bono. So there's lots and lots of different organisations you can do it in, but you need to be able to demonstrate that you're getting exposure to the delivery of legal services. It's quite wide, because if you have overseas experience, that can count as qualifying work experience. You have to, you're able to do your qualifying work experience in up to 4 different organisations, and the length of time you spend in any one organisation doesn't have a minimum, nor does it have a maximum. But you must get it signed off by a solicitor working in the organisation that you're with, or a compliance officer with that organisation. So it's very, very flexible. And this is part of the SRA's agenda to widen access to the profession. You, as Sydney has already mentioned, you can work your QWE to suit you best in terms of where you're at in your journey towards qualification. So you might be working in an organisation where you're accumulating your QWE time while you're studying for your SQE assessments. You might have already completed your qualifying work experience requirement of 2 years before you even start studying for your SQE assessments, and therefore you can bank your previous experience. And any voluntary work can count, so long as it is within the context of the provision of legal services. So lots and lots of flexibility. Sydney and her team have a huge amount of information about qualifying work experience if you've got any specific questions, and we'll pick up any questions you have at the end on that. And I'm going to hand you back to Sydney now, who will ask Alex to tell you something about her experience.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for that. So that does lead nicely on to Alex. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for this one, just so that I can see you properly. But thank you so much, first and foremost, for agreeing to come and speak to people this evening, Alex. It's great to have a student here that can actually talk about their experience for the SQE1. Well done on passing it in January, and now you're preparing for SQE2. So, I mean, to start off with, please, can you just, tell us a little bit about yourself and give a bit of a background for everyone that's here?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you, Sydney. Thank you, everyone, for being here. bit about myself. So I've got a couple of years of experience, so more than required. I'm an international candidate. I wasn't doing my undergrad studies in the UK. I just decided to move here a couple of years ago. Well, my background is Polish German, and I'm currently working in the profession here in the UK. And yes, as Sydney mentioned, I managed to pass in January.
Did very
Of course,
well.
with the help of Culp, which, well, I'll mention in a second, because it really helped a lot, especially that well, I'm currently working full time. So yes, I'm doing the preparation course full time, combined with masters, and also working full time. So yes, it's quite a challenge at times.
You have done very well. You have defied what some might say all odds and successfully passing the SQE one. So well done. So what made you decide to become a qualified lawyer in England and Wales specifically?
It started really with a, well, personal life decision. I just wanted to move abroad. And I decided because of the legal market. Like, you can't compare London to anything else. And yes, it might be a biased opinion, but that's the reality. So really, if I wanted to challenge myself, I just decided, yeah, I'm all in, and just decided to move to London. And I've never regretted that. So just to keep in mind for international candidates, because you mentioned that there might be some here with us today. There are options also, if you qualify in the UK, there are still options in some EU countries to also join the bar. So that's something I'm currently looking into. Of course, I've got SQE2 in October. That's when I'm sitting the exam. However, I'm thinking about joining the bar in Poland. And as you know, with the EU, if you join one of the countries, well, in theory, you can also practice in any other member state. So that's, I would say, just think about that. Be very pragmatic about why you want to qualify.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic for people to know as well, because, it might be you become qualified over here and you work for a few years and then you decide you want to take it overseas to somewhere where it doesn't rain all the time. If you're based in the UK, you might want to go somewhere that's sunny for once. So that's really
Very
good.
relevant.
Yes, it is good to know for sure. So, I mean, I think that what a lot of people, something that kept coming up when people were asking questions was, how would you describe, when it comes to the study that you've done with the college, how would you describe and explain the SQ preparation elements of the LLM? What was that like?
LLM. So yes, so your SQE preparation course is part of your LLM. So the first part is SQE1 preparation. You've got two different elements, or two different parts of SQE1. Is FLK1 and FLK2. So both are included as part of your master's. Currently, I just finished, I had an exam this morning from one of my transactional modules. I've decided to go with commercial property as the first choice. Then it was dispute resolution, mostly commercial litigation, and then family law. There are other modules available at the college, so it's completely up to you what you want to do in your future, especially since these transactional modules prepare you or provide you with skills. After you pass your SQE, you use those skills in these practice areas if you wish to. So that's why I decided to pick those. And then the last part of the master's is the SQE2 preparation. So even though you are preparing to sit this bar exam, so the SQE exam, it counts towards your master's.
That's brilliant. So just going back to sort of SQE1, because as we've mentioned, you managed to pass it, and you managed to pass it while working full time and doing a full time LLM. How did you prepare for the SQE1? And I think what a lot of people also want to know is what is the SQE1 actually like? Can you manage their expectations on what to expect?
Yes, it was quite a journey, especially that I experienced some health issues because I had back problems. So I remember emailing SRA and, can I please have a pillow with me? And they said, yeah, of course. Yeah, just show Kaplan the pillow. We'll just let them know. Because there was one person with a pillow over there. So as Kathryn mentioned, yes, it takes 5 hours on a day. You've got 1 hour break in between. So if you've got any kind of issues like that, I think SRA is at least trying to be quite flexible with it, because yeah, it might be required. But the preparation was tense. It was tense. A lot of my MCQs, and that's what I needed. I really needed someone to be there for me and just tell me, today, 100 pages. You need to just go through them, then you've got all the MCQs to go through, and that's what the college helped me with a lot, because well, you provided me with both the hard copies, which was very helpful, but also digital materials just to refer back. In between, there are a lot of Zoom calls, so-called surgeries, just going through practical points, just to emphasize, oh, that's the question that might be that you might be asked to just deal with, which was very, very helpful. So really, it was tense. It was tense. I think I'm lucky enough. I haven't done, yeah, and that will be very modest of me, I haven't made any notes while preparing. I was just reading materials from the college, which is great, and I think help with scheduling and like organizing myself, some time management here. However, that actually leads me to something I really wanted to mention to everyone here tonight: be rational. If you need a bit more time, or if when you study you really need to make notes, of course it will take you a bit longer. And by a bit longer, it might take you a few months longer, okay? So please be rational about it and prioritize your mental health, because then let's say you'll be very overwhelmed. Even registering for the exam is quite challenging because of course there is limited number of spaces, and something might go wrong with tech or the system. And I know everyone was just panicking on the day, like everyone was messaging in those group chats, like what is happening? Yeah, so I would say just please manage your mental health, because the preparation is tense. It's achievable and you can do it. Trust me, you can do it, but please be just honest with yourself how long it might take you.
I mean, it's fantastic that you're being so transparent and saying, you know, first and foremost, you need to decide what's best for you. So if you do have quite a few other commitments and you're not in a rush to become qualified, it's definitely worth doing a part-time option. And I mean, that's coming from someone that's done full-time and been successful. So it's really great that you're so open and honest about that. So it's a good bit of advice to share. That was going to be my next question, what advice, but you've already done that one. So I will move on to the next one. You've mentioned, you know, that the materials that the college provided were, you know, they really helped you, especially the multiple choice questions, which is great. We love to hear that. It means that we're doing our jobs right, Kathryn. So that's a pat on the back for us. But before you started, you know, what was it that made you choose the college? What was it that drew you to us rather than another provider?
Well, there are plenty of providers on the market. That's true. In here, what I really enjoyed, I had a call with one of the team members prior to even joining, which they were so flexible and they really wanted to have a conversation with me. They wanted to understand my circumstances. So I explained, okay, just heads up, I'm working. I need flexibility, because you mentioned you are online, but sometimes it doesn't work this way. But no, I was completely assured, yes, we are really flexible. If you can't join something because there might be like one of the surgeries at 10 a.m., but you are working, we'll just record that. We'll share the recording with you. And in practice, actually, it was like that. So that was one of the reasons that college is flexible. It's not like they always or only claim they are. And secondly, well, cost, of course, because in the end, if you will pass or not, is up to you. And I think any provider will provide you, they are fully committed, any of them. So if you just take that into consideration, into account when deciding, really, because of course it's quite an expensive journey. As already Kathryn mentioned, well, the fees will increase because on a yearly basis, well, the SRA actually increases fees. So definitely something to remember. It's still, inflation and everything.
Yes.
Think about that.
That's sound advice. And it's good that when you've had those conversations as well, that the accessibility element, it came through when you were having those conversations. And off the back of that, if anyone does want a one-to-one conversation with either myself or one of my colleagues after this webinar, because you're wanting to explore something in a bit more detail, please don't hesitate to book that in, because we would be more than happy to help. So I've just got one more question for you. And then I will let you go until the end, when we have our question session where all of our attendees can ask. But looking back, is there anything that you would have done differently when choosing your course or preparing for the SQE?
Not really. I say I would just listen to my partner, who is a physiotherapist, to not have back problems. I think the only change I would do, because it's not the nicest if you are struggling for 2 months while preparing. Yes, so I think, but preparation wise, well, I passed in the end. I think maybe I wouldn't be that stressed if I spend a bit more time for all the big MCQs. And sorry, I don't remember the name, but there are different names. Formative assessments, I believe so, right? On the system, Kathryn, yeah? Yeah, so they are very, because Kathryn, I think you mentioned that, yeah, we'll be preparing you. And yes, there is a real life experience. So there are exams that you'll be sitting even for the college. I believe like 2 hour long with a lot of MCQs. So I would say maybe the block B, so the FLK2 with criminal practice, which is not my cup of tea. Probably I would spend a bit more time working on my criminal practice, especially before SQE2 right now. So good, Kathryn, that you mentioned that I don't have to pass criminal. So I hope so.
Oh no, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Alex, for taking the time to talk to us. I will let you go for a little bit now. Don't log off. We still need you in case anyone wants to ask you anything. But thank you so much for that. That's all been so helpful. Okay then. So I'm just gonna chime in here briefly. Again, before I pass back over to Kathryn, again to just talk about our courses in a bit more detail. Just to check, can everyone see my screen again? Yep. Okay. Brilliant. So, I mean, Alex did a fantastic job of sort of touching on the key things to consider when choosing your, when choosing what pathway you want to take and also your preparation courses, but we've just summarized them here. So these are the main things that we want you to think about to make sure that you're going to ensure success, basically. So the first thing is time. So as Alex said, you need to think about when you're wanting to be qualified and how much time you actually have available to prepare for the SQE. Because if you've got a lot of plates spinning, you will obviously be at a disadvantage as someone that maybe has fewer commitments. There's also the cost. So you need to consider the overall cost of pursuing the SQE route and come up with a suitable timeline to avoid any financial stress. That's definitely key because, as we've mentioned, the SQE assessments, due to inflation, they do increase annually. And also with the SQE2, you have to attend in person and it is in the UK, so there's an extra cost. So just make sure you have a realistic idea of how much it's going to cost you to actually successfully prepare, sit and pass the SQE assessments. Now, qualifying work experience is another key thing to consider because when you are working within a legal setting, it can understandably help you successfully pass the SQE because you're working within the legal sector and you're testing your knowledge and you might be developing those skills. And it does also provide an income while becoming qualified as well, so it can ease that financial stress as well. So it might be that you're wanting to look at securing a role within the legal sector before you go on to prepare for the SQE. And lastly, other commitments. So if you do have personal commitments or caring responsibilities, or it might just be that you really enjoy having a social life for your well-being and mental psyche, then you need to be sure to find a part-time route that is suitable for you so that you're not overstretched and so that you are taking care of your mental health and well-being, as Alex said previously. So that was just a quick summary, sort of what we've already covered. I'm going to pass back to Kathryn now, who's just going to give you a bit more information on our courses and how we help people, how the college help people successfully pass the SQE. So Kathryn, over to you again.
Thank you. So you've got a slide here which shows you the range of courses that we have available. So we only do postgraduate provision, but we're aware that for some people who have come off the back of their degree, they may not have done a law degree, but they're thinking that they want to qualify as a solicitor. And whilst they There isn't an SRA requirement to have a law degree. We know, because of the intensity and the breadth of the SQE1 exam, that people who have law degrees tend to really start off on the front foot, whereas people who don't have law degrees have to cope with a completely new way of thinking across 13 practice areas when studying for the SQE. And so we really strongly recommend that if you're not from a law background, you think about doing a graduate diploma in law, which would effectively put you on the same footing as a law graduate. We then run SQE1 preparation courses, which we've talked about in a little bit of detail. I'm going to talk about those in some more, and SQE2 preparation courses. And we run both of those prep courses over various durations. So the shortest SQE1 prep is 13 weeks. You can also do it over 20 weeks. You can even do it over 40 weeks. And each SQE1 prep course is aligned to finish at a point that is aligned to the SQE1 attempt. So you'll come to an end in December for a January SQE1 attempt, or you'll come to an end in June for a July SQE1 attempt. Our course fees for doing that as a standalone course, in other words, not part of the LLM, is £1,800. If you do SQE2 prep, again, every end point is aligned to an SQE2 sit opportunity, and you can do those courses over 10 weeks, 20 weeks, or 40 weeks at a cost of £2,300. If you are wanting to do those as part of an LLM pathway, it's only the you can't do the 40-week, you can't do the extended version as part of the LLM pathway. And as Alex has said very eloquently, really think about what time you've got available to study to make sure that you choose the course that's best for you. If you wanted to do your SQE1 and 2 prep as part of an LLM, then you can do so embedded in our full-time or part-time pathways. If you did the 1-year LLM, then you'd be doing the shortest SQE1 prep and the shortest SQE2 prep. If you did the part-time, you'd be doing that midpoint of 20 weeks SQE1 prep and 20 weeks SQE2 prep. And in addition to those preparation courses, you would have transactional modules. Alex has made reference to them. They are a bit like electives in that you have a range of choices. They are intended to equip you for the skills and legal knowledge for seats you may encounter in legal practice. So if you're going into a family department, for example, you might choose the family elective. If you're going into commercial property, you could choose the commercial property transactional module or elective. And then the final piece of the LLM is to do an independent piece of research, which we call a capstone project. And all of those elements give you enough academic credits for an LLM in legal practice for a cost of £7,245. So we're really aware of price points, how important price points are to people, and that it's a big investment, isn't it, to spend a lot of time studying and also spend a lot of money on education and exam fees. So that price point enables you to really get the whole package, including your SQE fees, for within the level of a student loan if you're eligible for funding from Student Finance England. So that's something to bear in mind as well. So those are our courses. It's a full suite of postgraduate courses there. So what do we give you in our SQE prep module? So a bit more of a deeper dive here in terms of the way we deliver our programs. So flexibility is really important. We know it's important to you. We've heard that from Alex. It's also important to us. So when you start your SQE courses, all of your materials are available digitally for the whole syllabus from day one. However, we give you guidance on how to progress through all of that material. So we take you through practice areas. randomized in SQE1, and the reason we randomize them is because you have to be able to juggle randomized practice areas when you're doing the SQE exam. So you've got to be able to jump from answering a question on tort to answering a question on business practice, for example. So we randomize that for you. We give you hard copy manuals, but we also give you soft copy manuals and online digitally, and we give you activities online. We give you surgeries, which are like lectures, really, taking you through practice points, as Alex has talked about, but also we give guidance on how to be skilled so that when you sit that SQE1 exam, you're ready as you can be for the experience, and that there really is no way around the reality of having to learn lots and lots of material. As I say, there's no optionality, everything is closed book, really limited period of time, and I can't convey how well Alex has done in passing first attempt. Well, very well done. But what we're also doing is guiding you on how to approach doing those exams, and then giving you opportunities for practice by doing formative assessments or progress tests as you progress through the SQE1 preparation course. So by the time you're ready to sit your SQE exam, on our prep course, you'll have done over 2,300 multiple choice questions, and you'll have lots and lots of opportunity to practice those. And again, those practice MCQ questions are available to you as well, as open from the day you start the course, from the moment they're open to you. So really, really lots of flexibility for you to be able to dip into those information and learning, that information and learning tools, and also to be guided through all of the materials for you. When you come to your SQE2 prep, again, you have the SQE1 manuals available to you. You in soft copy, you have lots and lots of different activities and practices so that you are able to have exposure to the experience of all 6 skills across all 5 practice areas, so that you've had the various permutations that arise in SQE2. Again, you have surgeries on the practice areas, guidance in respect of getting through the module and the skills you need in town hall meetings. You have the opportunity to submit work and get it reviewed and get feedback on that, so that you're ready for the SQE2 assessment stations. And both in SQE1 and SQE2, from your engagement on the with the materials, particularly doing the practices in SQE2 and the formative progress tests in SQE1, we're able to have a really meaningful conversation with you about your readiness to actually attempt the SQE exam. And that's really important for you, because those fees, once you've paid them, well, there are fairly limited, restricted terms and conditions from the SRA, which mean that you pay even a price for cancelling the SQE if you don't go ahead. And if you don't succeed, nobody really likes to think about that, but if you don't succeed, you have 2 other attempts that you can make, but you pay the full fees again. So really what you want to be doing is making sure that you feel confident and ready for the sit point that you choose, and we'll help you to do that, and we'll talk to you about that. So lots and lots of opportunities for getting yourself ready. All the materials are there. We hear that, as you've heard from Alex, about how useful they are, and it's there for the taking. I think genuinely Alex is right. No, that if you choose there are a number of providers. There are a number of very competent providers. Nobody is going to give you something that they don't feel confident with, but it's yours for the taking. You've got to make it work, because it's you who sits those exams, you who invest the time, you who invest the money. So really think carefully about what's best for you. Okay, that brings us on to the next slide, please, if you would. Sydney, yeah. So, little bit about funding here, and whether or not you choose just the SQE courses or the LLM and embed the SQE with them. We've touched on this a little bit. If you choose the LLM route, you will be able to complete your LLM and pay your SQE fees within the cost or within the funding that you would obtain from a Student Finance England postgraduate loan. If you pay your if you decide to do your SQE as standalone modules, then you pay us for the preparation courses, and you pay Kaplan for the SQE assessment costs, and that comes out at a total of about £8,000. So it's about 2/3 to just do 2/3 of the price of an LLM to just do the SQE 1 and 2 prep courses and the Kaplan fees. You can't get government funding of any sort for the standalone courses, although we do have people who are sponsored by firms coming to us doing only the SQE 1 and SQE 2 prep courses. So that's something to bear in mind if your firm's willing to assist you with the costs. Okay, so if we move on then to the next slide, this is just another look at what your LLM might involve if you choose the LLM route. So bearing in mind what Sydney said about time, what Alex has said about time, and the balance you'll need in your life, you have the choice between full-time and part-time. If you do the full-time route, you start with SQE 1. The end is aligned to your SQE 1 sit opportunity. You then do transactional modules sandwiched before your SQE 2 prep course, which is aligned to the SQE 2 sit. And your capstone, which is your independent research, you pick up with your transactional module and you work on that independently throughout the whole of the rest of your full-time LLM. It is really intensive. You're looking at 180 academic credits. That's a lot of hours. Do think really carefully about what your outside commitments are, and also what balance and what you want to have going on in your life alongside studying. So it might be that the full-time route is too intense for many people, in which case the part-time route is available. You can see here that you start with your SQE 1 prep, aligned to your SQE 1 sit. You do a transactional module and start your capstone. You then do your SQE 2 prep, aligned to an SQE 2 sit, and finally pick up a transactional module. So you'd be doing a full-time over 12 months, a part-time over 2 years. But the really important thing here, I think the key takeaway is we only are running postgraduate professional LLMs. And what that means is we don't have a university year. And what that means is you don't get a month off for Christmas. You don't get a month off for Easter. You don't get any reading weeks during your modules. But you do get a slight gap between the end of a module and the start of a module, but it's really full on, and you're studying consecutively for the whole of the 12 months or the whole of the 2 years. So bear that in mind. Okay.
Sorry, just to add to that as well. Sorry if you've already mentioned it, but if you do the full-time or the part-time, when you actually sit the SQE 1, it will be the same sitting date as well. So regardless of the study option, it's just that you would start your part-time LLM earlier than the full-time LLM, but you would sit, say, in January 2025, you would still sit your SQE 1 in the same window, and then you would only, I think it's 3 months behind, isn't it, Kathryn, on the part-time when it comes to sitting the SQE 2?
Yes, basically. And the reason, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sydney, for that. Yes. The reason there is you're slightly behind on the part-time pathway for when you would have your SQE2 sit, is the need to wait for your SQE1 exams before you can register for your SQE2 attempt. But yes, there's and the content of every module, whether or not that's a transactional module or an SQE prep course, is exactly the same for full-time and part-time students. There's no difference in the amount of contact time you have. There's no difference in the materials. It's just that it's stretched out on the part-time course, which means that it gives people a different pace at which to study.
Thank you.
Okay, so we the next slide brings us to our start dates, and really you'll see here that we don't look like a university academic year. So we have lots and lots of different start points, but everyone is aligned to SQE sits. So if you are wanting to do just an SQE1 prep course with us, you can see that you have a range of start dates coming up for this summer. It's the end of September for the 13-week course. It's the 5th of August for the 20-week course. And both of those are aligned to the January 2025 sits. If you wanted to study over the 40-week period, then it's the 2nd of September start, and that is aligned to the SQE assessment in July of 2025. Our LLMs start with the SLK, which is the SQE1 prep module. So you'll see that the LLM start dates coincide with the start dates for the SQE1 prep course. So that's the 23rd of September for a full-time 1-year LLM, and the 5th of August for the 2-year part-time LLM. Okay.
That's great. Thank you so much, Kathryn, for talking us through that. That's really helpful. If anyone's sort of got any questions off the back of that, please pop them in the chat. Also, just to draw your attention to the QR code there, that will take you to our course calendar. So you will have the course start dates to hand as well. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm aware that we're quite close to 7 o'clock now, so I'm sorry if we overrun a little bit, but hopefully you've all found it helpful. Really quickly, this is our Secrets to Success guide. People love this guide. They find it so helpful, and so if you haven't already, definitely scan the QR code and download it. It'll just recap on the SQE route. It gives you some top tips, and it also will reiterate the college's approach, our approach to helping you pass, and it also talks about student experiences and some supervisor tips. So if you are considering studying with us especially, then definitely download that and have a look. But that leads us on to questions. So I saw that we had a couple in the chat, so just bear with me one moment. So we've got a few through. So just having a look.
I've got those here, Sydney. If it's helpful, I can pick those up now.
Yeah, please. So do you mean to type the answer, or do you just want to talk through them now?
I'll talk through it. So
Thank you.
I'm going to take it in reverse order. So hard copy materials is a question. We give you manuals, which is textbooks in hard copy and also in soft copy. All of the digital material that's on the learning platform is only in digital material. We don't provide any hard copies of those activities. So it's the hard copy textbooks that you get, but it's included in your fee. And they're written by us. So they're bespoke to us. And then there's another question about when should we sign up to study the SQE. Hopefully you'll have seen, that was quite early on in the presentation, but you've seen from the slide that there's a range of start dates available. And if you've snapped that QR code, it can take you through to the calendar so that you can choose the start date that's best for you. Linked to that is a question about a training contract. A training contract, well, the training contract route doesn't really exist as part of the SQE pathway, but firms are offering training positions within the SQE pathway. either as an add-on, because they want people trained for their own organisation, or it's part of your qualifying work experience. So if you are fortunate to get an offer of a position in a firm and it's badged as a training contract or a training position, as I say, that can count towards your qualifying work experience, or it may simply mean that they are wanting to train you so that you fit that organisation.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got another one through. What is the maximum time gap a person can have between sitting the SQE1 and the SQE2 exam?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's
It
6 years
is.
from the clock. You must complete and pass SQE within a period of 6 years, and the clock starts ticking at your first assessment. So at the point at which you sit SQE1 for the first time.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So I think that's all of them. There were a couple of things that we didn't necessarily address throughout the webinar from the slides, but they were asked when people were registering. So I've just popped some useful links in the chat bar. So we obviously briefly covered exemptions for internationally qualified lawyers, and I've provided the relevant link in the chat bar for that. And we also got asked how to apply for our courses. So you can apply for our courses via the link that I've provided in the chat. And then lastly, we got asked about scholarships that were available. Now, we do offer some scholarships, but they have just closed. So they're not available at the moment, but I have provided a link for other funding options because we do offer interest-free payment installments as well. And there are also some other grants and scholarships available on that webpage where I've provided the link as well. So have a look at those. But I don't know if anyone else has got any questions. By all means, ask them now, but I will move on to the next slide. If you would prefer to have a one-to-one chat, as I said earlier, just with myself or a colleague, then please book in a one-to-one chat. We love hearing from you. We love helping people. Even if you're not sure whether or not you're going to study with us, it's a lot of time and a lot of money that you are spending to become qualified. So we're happy to help. If you're still wanting a little bit of guidance on things, and also subscribe to our newsletter, because even though we don't provide qualifying work experience, it's one of the reasons we're so affordable. We don't provide qualifying work experience, but if an opportunity arises that we are made aware of, we do share that in our newsletter. We also share it on our SQE information group on LinkedIn as well. But if you've got any other questions, just contact us with the information and give the QR codes a sign. A scan even. Oh, we've got a couple of more. Is it also 6 years? What is the max? What is the max time limit to get the 2-year PQE before passing the SRA character assessment?
So the qualifying work experience has to be done over a period of 2 years, full-time equivalent. So you can pick that up in bits and pieces. So you could do 4 months, take a gap, do 3 months, take a gap, etc. Or you can do 2 years in one place. And the character assessment isn't something you pass as such. It's just that when you apply to the SRA to have your name entered onto the roll of solicitors, they check you out to make sure that you're a person of suitable character to practice as a solicitor, which in broad terms means that you have no criminal convictions and that you are a safe and trustworthy person for the public to be able to rely on you for legal advice. So if you have any doubt as to your character or anything on your record, the SRA would be the place to go to find out whether or not that's going to cause you a problem.
Okay, brilliant. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Hopefully you found it useful. And thank you so much, Alex and Kathryn, for attending as well and talking us through everything. It's been really helpful. As I say, if anyone has any other questions, please do contact us, let us know, and give us a follow on social media. But thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a good evening.